Welcome in to another edition of TBL News the Pod. This is your Week 6 rundown, which means we'll be recapping everything that happened in Week 6. But before we get to racing through the week that was, I'd like to set the stage just a bit for some new expectations, new horizons, a new future, your future, our future, new material from TBL News the Pod, specifically on TBL News the Pod, the Rundown edition. The weekly rundown, starting today and from now on, will include a minute or two of me filling you in on the major storylines before we jump into our typical frenzied recap content. You should also keep up with us on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. We're at TBL News Official on all three of them. There you'll find summaries and links to all the articles from our talented TBL News team of writers, which includes myself, Brad Smith, Owen Whetstone, Jack Morgan, Isaac Edelman, Nick Monjovi, and very soon a brilliant young woman named Nell Plunkett. We're also starting a new social media series called Who You With. That's spearheaded by the fastidious, reliable, and energetic AJ Johnson. A content series that will highlight from the first-person view, that is, from the player's point of view, a TBL star's signature move. So maybe Chris Darrington will provide us some video content as to what is going through his head and what motions he is going through when he makes his extraordinary game-winning shots. And of course, make sure to tune into One-on-One with Angel each Thursday as he sits down with coaches, players, and movers and shakers from all around the basketball league. Now for today's big storylines. We've got two of them. Number one, the Reading Rebels. The Reading Rebels have won 9 in a row. That's 9 times. Their games are absolute must-see TV as they are a true high-wire act. New Lob City, we're calling them. It used to be Lob City 2.0, but I realized this is much better. New Lob City. Remember New Jack City? Or maybe just New York City. Well, this is New Lob City. They're really exciting to watch, the Reading Rebels. They've won 9 in a row. They're now in third in the Northeast at 10-2 with Week 7 matchups against Montreal and Virginia Valley. Keep an eye on Reading. Storyline number 2. You've got to make sure you have your full TBL TV League Pass. Not just the Team Pass, but the League Pass, so you can watch not only what's going on in that thrilling Northeast we just mentioned, but also the increasingly thrilling Central. In the Central, this weekend, your first place, Potawatomi Fire, home of your reigning TBL MVP Deshaun Munson, play 2 totally critical games. The first against Shreveport. Potawatomi will be at home on Friday night, and then they'll be at Wichita on Saturday. Huge games, kind of deciding the Central in Week 7. So if you don't have a full TBL TV League Pass, get a full TBL TV League Pass. Watch the Rebels this weekend, and certainly make sure to check in on those Potawatomi games. Again, Friday night against the defending champs, Shreveport, who are 0-2 against Potawatomi this season, and then against Wichita, who are a really, really strong team. If Potawatomi escapes this weekend, Week 7, unscathed, I think at least, and I would imagine most would agree with me, they would solidify themselves as the hands-down, odds-on favorite to hoist the lily when all is said and done. Speaking of said and done, that does it for my intro. Those are your storylines. That's how we're welcoming in this edition of the Rundown. Now, let's get to your Week 6 Rundown. Cheesy drive time radio voice, activate! Week 6 tipped off with a 154-123 Newfoundland win over Fayetteville on Wednesday behind 33 points from All-Star guard Armani Chaney. The Thursday night slate of games saw the Wenatchee Bighorns beat the South Bay Flash 114-103 as Wenatchee's Kelvin Fuller notched a 22-12 double-double. The Gulf Coast Lions beat the Central Florida Force in a high-scoring affair 159-148. The Lions' Zachary Brent led all scorers with 39, while Central Florida's John Mason dropped 35 and Martez Briggs added 30. The Reading Rebels would win 3 more games this past weekend, starting with a 98-79 Thursday win over Virginia Valley. Albany's Trev Weish scored 29 points in the Patroons' 102-89 win over Montreal. The Bobcats beat Lebanon 124-119. Larry Plummer dropped 35 in the dub. The Potawatomi Fire beat the Oklahoma Panthers 128-90. 3 players for the Fire scored over 20. Kevin Foster and Terry Maston both scored 22, and K.D. Moore poured in 25. The Shreveport Mavericks beat the Pearland Texas Warriors 124-97. Shreveport's all-star guard Paul Parks led all scorers with 35. The Owensboro Thoroughbreds beat the Derby City Distillers 94-82, recording 14 blocks as a team. On Friday night, the San Diego Sharks beat the West Coast Breeze 120-107. The Newfoundland Rogues had another impressive offensive outing, beating Fayetteville by a score of 151-105 behind 28 from, all-star guard Armani Chaney, and a 27-10 double-double from Brandon Johnson. The charging Reading Rebels entered the fourth quarter on the road against Syracuse down by 8, but wound up with a 130-128 victory and a truly marvelously played game. 4 Stallions topped the 20-point mark, led by newcomer Charlie Marquard's 32 in his first start for Cuse since leaving the Wichita Sky Kings. Emmanuel Egbuta recorded 32 points and 14 boards for Reading. The dub for Reading marked their 8th in a row, with their 9th coming on Sunday over the York Mighty Ants, which we'll get to shortly. The Cincinnati Warriors beat the Owensboro Thoroughbreds 129-124 behind 27 points from Kobe Brown, 23-12 from Joshua Davenport, 23-9 from Carson Newsom, and 22 from Jaron Cumberland. Jason Holiday and Montel James both topped the 30-point mark for Owensboro in the loss. The Lehigh Valley Legends beat the Montreal Tundra 108-104 despite an uncharacteristically poor shooting percentage from all-star Ja James. Timothy Simmons and Charles Funches picked up the slack for the Legends, scoring 26 and 25 respectively in the win. Jahad Proctor led all scorers to help the York Mighty Ants to a 108-99 win over Tri-State. The Medora Timberjacks collected their 3rd straight win by beating the first-place Bobcats 109-98 in Kokomo Memorial. Medora's Jair Greer dropped 21 and 13 for Medora, while all-star Derek Hawthorne scored 26 for Kokomo in the loss. Lebanon's Isaac Edmondson went 17 of 23 from the charity stripe en route to 27 points in a 117-100 Leprechauns win over Flint. The Oklahoma Panthers beat the Enid Outlaws 101-99 behind 30 points from Devin Hutchinson. All-star Paul Parks was at it again, this time hitting 7 3-pointers en route to a 34-point night to lead the defending champion Shreveport Mavericks to a 152-114 win over Rockwall. Every single, yes, literally every single member of the Seattle Superhawks scored in double figures, with 4 of those Superhawks, Sekou Toure, Michael Carter III, Kim Aiken Jr., and Jordan Bell also grabbing double-digit rebounds. Never before in the history of men's American professional basketball has every single player available for a particular team scored in double digits. Dear Seattle Superhawks, welcome to the record books. The Long Beach Blue Waves beat the Bakersfield Magic 135-96 behind Chris Blount's 23, and the Salem Capitals wrapped up the Friday slate of games with a 124-94 win over Vancouver, led by Joseph Billinger Jr.'s game-high 29. On Saturday, the Long Beach Blue Waves beat the West Coast Breeze 118-110. The Newfoundland Rogues completed the sweep over Fayetteville with a 110-103 dub. The Rogues have now won 5 straight. The Pearland Texas Warriors beat Rockwall 122-118. The Jamestown Jackals continue their impressive run as they beat the Kalamazoo Galaxy 120-104. The Pottawatomie Little Rock game was suspended and postponed due to a power outage. The team's front office's plan to play a game of Marco Polo instead was kiboshed by venue management, who feared lack of insurance coverage. The Atlantic City Gambits used clamped-down defense to beat the Lehigh Valley Legends 106-97, holding the visitors from Easton to 36% shooting from the field. The Virginia Valley Vipers beat the Tri-State Admirals 121-88. The Glass City Wranglers overcame an uncharacteristically inefficient shooting night from All-Star Chris Darrington by out-rebounding an opponent for the first time this season, snagging 56 boards to Flint's 49 in an 89-81 win. The St. Louis Griffins beat the Derby City Distillers 103-97, while Owensboro beat Kentucky 111-99. The West Virginia Grind got off the schneid with a 19-1-14 road win over Huntsville. No Teddy Buckets, no problem for Wichita as the Sky Kings beat the Panthers 145-94 as 8 Sky Kings players score in double digits. On Sunday, the San Diego Sharks overcame a 7-point fourth-quarter deficit to defeat Bakersfield 120-118. The Coastal Georgia Buccaneers got 35 points from DeMonte Wright en route to a 145-113 win over Central Florida. Two of TBL's best, Glass City's Chris Darrington and Kokomo's Derek Hawthorne, dueled in a crucial Upper Midwest matchup, which saw the Bobcats beat the Wranglers for a fourth time this season, 105-103. Darrington dropped 27 in the loss. Hawthorne won the scoring battle and the game with 29 points. The Albany Patroons went to Syracuse and won, despite another really good performance from the newest stallion Charlie Marquardt, who scored 35. Albany's all-star guard Trev Weish poured in 32 and stuffed the stat sheet with 5 rebounds, 7 assists, and 5 steals. The Raleigh Firebirds beat the Southeast leading Georgia Soul for the second time this season, 129-106. Antonine, Abdullah, and Palmer all eclipsed 20 points in the win. Atlantic City's defense was once again on full display as they held Virginia Valley to just 65 points, winning 89-65. The Reading Rebels made it 9 in a row with a 118-98 victory over York, despite Jahad Proctor's amazing 51-point outburst. Emmanuel Egbuta led all Rebels with 29, adding 10 rebounds to round out another stellar performance. Jamestown continued its winning ways, downing the Lebanon Leprechauns 103-91. The Jackals' Magnus Richards led all scorers with 28. The Medora Timberjacks beat Derby City 105-91 as both Grayer and Foster topped the 20-point mark. Shreveport's Joshua Montgomery scored a season-high 29 to lead all scorers in the Mavericks' 115-102 win over Little Rock. Cincinnati shot 59% from the field and beat Huntsville 132-105. The Enid Outlaws went into Wichita and left with a 126-121 win. The game went into overtime after a spectacular fourth quarter which saw 4 lead changes and 5 ties in the final 3 minutes of regulation. Teddy Buckets notched 21 and 11 for Wichita, outdone only by Enid's Ethan Chargois, or maybe Chargois, depending on which part of the country you're from, 31-point, 16-rebound masterpiece. The Outlaws' Marvin Johnson also recorded a 30-point double-double, scoring 30 and hauling in 11 boards. The West Coast Breeze beat the Bakersfield Majestics 118-112, while the Superhawks got 25 apiece from Carter III and Bell to beat Salem 105-102. Week 6 was closed out by a 106-95 Wenatchee win over Vancouver. Working from sea to shining sea, let's take a look at the standings as of this recording on the morning of Wednesday, April 19th. In the Northeast, Atlantic City holds a half-game lead over Albany with an 11-1 record compared to Albany's 11-2 record. The rampaging Reading Rebels now sit in third place at 10-2, while Syracuse has seemingly suddenly dropped off the proverbial podium, sitting in fourth place at 7-4. In the Southeast, the Georgia Soul continue to hold on to the top spot. They're 10-2, while the Raleigh Firebirds are 8-4. The Newfoundland Rogues have won 5 straight and evened their record at 14-14. The Kokomo Bobcats continue to reaffirm their position as the best in the Midwest. They're 11-3 and have handed the second-place 10-4 Glass City Wranglers all 4 of their losses. Jamestown is making a mad dash for upper Midwest relevance, winning 4 straight towards a record of 5-7. The Jackals have also, interestingly, scored precisely the same number of points as they've surrendered. 1,011 for, 1,011 against. The lower Midwest may be headed towards a logjam come playoff time as Medora sits in first at 7-3, followed by Huntsville at 8-5, St. Louis at 6-5, Derby City at 6-7, Owensboro at 5-6, and even Cincinnati at 4-6 is in the mix. I'm a poet and didn't even realize. The race in the Central is really heating up, literally, kind of. The Fire, that's the heating up reference, are back in first at 9-1, followed by Shreveport at 11-2 and Wichita at 10-3. The Outlaws have played some fierce basketball but have slid back to 6-6. The Fire have a big Week 7 coming up as they'll host Shreveport on Friday and head to Wichita on Saturday. The West has become a 2-team race, with the Seattle Superhawks improving to 11-1, holding a narrow lead over the 9-1 Long Beach Blue Waves. At the end of Week 6, the official midway point of the season, 5 players still average over 30 points a game. Kentucky's Cam Mitchell leads the league, scoring 36.6 points per game. The Breeze's Demetrius Murray averages 32.6. Glass City's Chris Darrington scores 31.2 a night. Central Florida's Dominic Douglas averages 30.7, and the Lions' Terrell Wilson is notching 30.6 per game. Owensboro's Montel James leads all rebounders, hauling in 14.7 per game. Enid's Ethan Chargois, or Chargois, depending on which part of the country you're from, averages 13.1 rebounds a game, and defending TBL MVP, 6'4" guard Deshaun Munson averages 12.9 rebounds a game. Munson's backcourt mate in Potawatomi, All-Star Chuck Guy, leads the league in assists, averaging 9.4 assists per game. Owensboro's Montel James does more than just grab rebounds as he leads the league in blocks, swatting 2.1 per. And there is a new league leader in steals after Week 6 as Charlotte's Devontae Carter swipes 3.8 a game. We're past the midway point, Kings and Queens, and that's your Week 6 rundown from the TBL News Desk. Follow TBL News Official on Twitter and Instagram and TikTok. That's at TBL News Official. And read the articles over at tblnews.co. That's not .com, that's tblnews.co. Leave off the last M for... Follow TBL News the Pod on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, etc. et al. And the like, because we release like a bazillion episodes a week, or like 4 or 5, to keep you informed about the ins and outs, goings on, and what have yous in, on, and around the basketball league. From the TBL News Desk, signing off.